All right, Remote Calculus 2, welcome to a little help video for Chapter 3, Homework Sets, number 2, Spring 2021. Several of these look very, very similar to that homework set that you have due on next Friday by 9 a.m. Here's that help video for that. So differentiate each function. This is the question, 1/3 x to the 6th. E to the negative 2x. Probably going to handle this using the product rule. Product rule says, we'll call this the first function part, that the second says derivative of the first times the second plus the first times derivative of the second. So derivative of the first would be 1/3 and then bring down the 6 and then 1 power less. So 1/3 of 6x to the 5th times the second function plus the first function. Derivative of any e to the u is e to the u du dx. So the derivative of e to the negative 2x would be e to the u, then derivative of negative 2x, which is negative 2. All right, then it's time to clean up. 1/3 of 6 is 2. X to the 5th, e to the negative 2x, plus minus 2/3 x to the 6th, e to the negative 2x. And that is our answer. Look at number 2 here. It says f of x is equal to 4x squared times the natural log of x to the 3rd. Again, product rule, first function second. So derivative of the first, that's just 8x times the second plus the first function. Derivative of any natural log u would be 1 over said u divided by the derivative of u with respect to x. So derivative of natural log x to the 3rd would be 1 over x to the 3rd, my u, times the derivative of that with respect to x. So times 3x squared. Nothing to clean up here. 4 times 3 gives me 12. We have x to the 4th up top divided by x to the 3rd. Divide everything out. 8x times natural log of x to the 3rd plus 12x. Not the best lighting, but that's what we're working with there. Maybe it'll transition here for us. All right, so number 3, you've got negative 1/3 cosine of 6x. Think of this as some negative 1/3 cosine u. The derivative of that would be negative 1/3. Derivative of cosine is negative sine, then u, and then the derivative of u with respect to x. That's the game plan. So derivative of negative 1/3 cosine 6x would be negative 1/3. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. 6x, derivative of 6x is x. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1/3 times 6 is 2. 2 sine 6x. All right. And we are moving on. Number 4, you have tangents of 4x squared, so tangent u. The derivative of any tangent u is secant squared u, and then du dx. Okay, so derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. Now that's just the generic simple x, okay? So derivative of tan u would be secant squared u du dx. So the derivative of 8's tangent u, we'll call it, is the following. So 8 secant squared u, then I take the derivative of this with respect to x, 8x. 8 times 8x, 64x, secant squared of 4x squared. Secant 4x squared, all that squared. All right, so negative 1/2 secant u. All right, so the derivative of any, first off, derivative of secant is secant x tangent x. Okay, so the derivative of secant u would be secant u tan u, and then the derivative of that u with respect to x. All right, so the derivative of negative 1/2 secant 2x squared would be negative 1/2 secant 2x squared tangent 2x squared. And then derivative of this u, 2x squared with respect to x, so 4x. Negative 1/2 times 4x is a negative 2x. That's how we simplify. Number 6. 1 minus cosine x over sine x. Classic quotient rule. Low, derivative of high, so the derivative of negative cosine x. So the opposites, that's the negative right there. Derivative of 1 is 0, so the opposite. Derivative of cosine is a negative sine. So the derivative of a negative cosine would be a positive sine. That's the negative, to subtract a negative, or the negative times the negative there. Minus high, the numerator, d low, derivative of sine is cosine all over low squared. Please distribute carefully here. All right, so you're going to have cosine x, and you're subtracting it. You're going to have a negative cosine squared x. You're subtracting a negative, which means you're adding it. Sine squared x plus cosine squared x. Anytime you see that, you absolutely, Pythagorean identity from pre-calc, need to write 1. Sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. 1 minus cosine over sine squared would be my answer there. You can pause this whenever you need to. Let's take a look at some more. Number 7. It's your classic u to the second power. So f of x is equal to those 4 terms squared. So you don't want to do 4 terms by 4 terms and distribute. That'll be 16 terms that you have to clean up. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this u squared. So the derivative of any u squared is 2u du dx. So bring down the 2u, then take the derivative of this u with respect to x. 12x squared minus 12x minus 8. All you got to do here is do that times that. All right, and you're going to be good there. You don't need to distribute. Okay, number 8, so you have a natural log u, basically. Natural log of sine 3x squared. So the derivative, again, of any natural log u is 1 over u du dx. That's the game plan. So the derivative of natural log of this would be 1 over my u, sine 3x squared. Then I have to take the derivative of this. Well, the derivative of sine is cosine of my angle. Then I take the derivative of that angle. Okay, everything gets its derivative taken. Up top, it's going to be 6x cosine 3x squared divided by sine 3x squared. Cosine over sine, again, have the same angles, cotangent, so you can also write it like that. Now, sort of have 9 is a little gentler version of 8s. So again, you have a natural log u. Derivative of any natural log u is 1 over u, being your angle, or not your angle, 1 over this u, times the derivative of u with respect to x. So natural log of cosine 3x would be 1 over my u. Then I take the derivative of this. Well, the derivative of cosine u would be negative sine u, or my angle, times the derivative of that. 3x, which is 3. And I can rewrite this as, because sine over cosine of the same angle is tangent. So I can rewrite it as such. All right, let's take a look at 10 here. Product rule, 4x squared times sine of 2x. First kind of function, second one, derivative of the first times the second plus the first function. So again, derivative of the first times the second plus the first function times derivative of the second. Derivative of any sine u would be cosine u times the derivative of u with respect to x. 2 times 4x squared is 8x squared. That would be my answer. All right. Let's keep going here. Didn't write all of these answers out. Yes. Take a look at 11, quotient rule here. So you got 7x to the third divided by 2x squared minus 1. Low, denominator, 2x squared minus 1 times derivative of high, 21x squared minus high. 7x squared d low, derivative of 2x squared minus 1 would be 4x, all over the square of what's below. Honestly, you just distribute here. That is 42x to the fourth minus 21x squared minus 28x to the fourth. So you're looking at 14x to the fourth minus 21x squared over 2x squared minus 1. All right. On number 12, we got the product rule here. 5x squared times the square root 2x minus 3. Product rule says derivative of the first times the second. So 10x, that's derivative of the first, times the second, plus the first function. Now the derivative of the second is as follows. So I'm dealing with 2x minus 3 to the 1/2 power. So the derivative of that, I would bring the power down 1/2 of u to the 1 power less times the derivative of u. Derivative of 2x minus 3 is 2. All right, so what we got. 1/2, 2 cancel. You got to have 5x squared divided by root 2x minus 3, because the negative 1/2 power puts it in the denominator. Lastly, what happens if I gave you like 2 cosecants? If you don't have the derivative of cosecant memorized, you're going to call it 2 over sine. 2 over sine. So we can use quotient rule. So low, derivative of 2 is 0, minus high, derivative of low is cosine, all over the square of what's below. So I have negative 2 cosine divided by sine squared x. Here's another way to rewrite it, because cosecant does have its derivative is a rule here, formula we can memorize. So sine can be written, sine squared can be written as such. So sine times sine. I can call this like negative 2 cosine x divided by sine x times 1 over sine x. 1 over sine x is cosecant. Cosine over sine is cotangent. There's the negative 2. All right, so that video should help you with a lot of that homework sets. This is Yak Math Videos signing out.